EBN Prime Edition. Calm holds in Tanzania for the better part of Tuesday, despite anticipation of nationwide protest that had raised concerns of a possible unrest amid heavy security and protest ban.
The Commission documented 57 violations on the right to life. These include the killing of a human rights defender, one Richard Otieno in Molo. There was a question on the number of deaths in the by-election, and we've documented 3.
Kenya National Commission on Human Rights alarmed by rising rights violations after recording 57 deaths and 661 human rights violations this year.
Sisi kama maafisa tabibu tunasikia hii wizara inatudhararisha. Tunasikia discriminated and that they do not recognize and appreciate the work that we do.
Siku ikitimia tarehe 23 mwezi wa 12 tutaanza mgomo kirasmi na tutafunga hospitali zote nchini.
Clinical officers threatened to down their tools on December 23rd if the government fails to address their grievances before the expiry of a 21-day strike notice issued to the Ministry of Health. And the Football Kenya Federation (FKF) and Akarako Football Academy have today entered into a landmark partnership to launch Kenya's first residential high-performance system for youth football. Alright, our sign language interpreter tonight is Laura Omondi. My name is Macharia. We are live across our social media platforms, that is on Facebook, on YouTube, and you can as well send us your feedback through our SMS line, that is 23059. Now, EBN Prime Edition starts now. Now we kickstart this particular program from across our borders, and the situation in Tanzania remained calm for the better part of Tuesday despite anticipation of nationwide protest that had raised concerns of a possible unrest. Now in major cities including Dar es Salaam and Dodoma, a heavy presence of security forces was observed, with police and military personnel conducting intensive patrols to prevent demonstrations from accessing central business districts. And now the Tanzanian military was deployed in key areas of Dar es Salaam to reinforce security and deter any attempts to disrupt public order. Now the calm followed government directives issued on Monday ordering residents to remain indoors as the country marked its Independence Day on December 9th. Authorities had early imposed a blanket ban on all protests, citing public safety and national stability concerns amid heightened tensions.
Ningependa kuwajulisha kuwa hadi mchana huu wa tarehe 9 mwezi wa 12 2025 hali ya usalama wa nchi ni shwari. Vyombo vya ulinzi na usalama vinaendelea kuimarisha usalama nchini sambamba na kulinda maisha ya watu na mali zao. Aidha, jeshi la polisi lingependa kutoa wito kwa wananchi kuendelea kuzipuuza picha mjongeo na picha mnato zinazoendelea kusambazwa kwenye mitandao ya kijamii zikionyesha kwamba kuna maandamano yameanza maeneo mbalimbali. Taarifa hizo sio sahihi. Wanatumia picha mjongeo na picha mnato za matukio ya nyuma kama vile ya tarehe 29, tarehe 30 na tarehe 31 mwezi wa 10 2025.
Alright, now let's switch gears to matters healthcare. And the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, that is KUSO, has raised a fresh strike threat, warning that its members will down their tools on December 23rd if the government fails to address their grievances before the expiry of a 21-day strike notice issued to the Ministry of Health. Now, the union staged peaceful demonstrations on Tuesday, marching from Green Park Terminus to the Ministry of Health headquarters at Afya House, that is in Nairobi. Now, during the protest, union leaders accused Health Cabinet Secretary, that is Edin Duale, of failing to sign a return-to-work agreement that would pave the way for the absorption of clinical officers into permanent and pensionable terms of service. Now, speaking during the demonstrations, KUSO Secretary General, that is Peterson Wachira, said the government has not implemented key commitments outlined in the 2024 return-to-work agreement. These include promotions, confirmations, improved remuneration, and the transition of clinical officers from contract and internship positions into permanent and pensionable employment.
SRC wamekubali, lakini kigugumizi imebaki kuwa waziri. Siku ikitimia tarehe 23 mwezi wa 12 tutaanza mgomo kirasmi na tutafunga hospitali zote nchini.
We concluded the negotiation in September of 2025, 3 months ago. The documents are printed, ziko kwa meza ya CS for 3 months. For 3 months. Tunangoja document ambayo imemaliziwa. For 3 good months. Kwa hivyo sisi kama maafisa tabibu, tunasikia hii wizara inatudhararisha. Tunasikia discriminated and that they do not recognize and appreciate the work that we do.
Now, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has raised serious concerns over the state of human rights in the country after recording 57 deaths and 661 human rights violations this year. Now, in its annual State of Human Rights report, the Commission described Kenya's human rights performance during the period under review as deeply troubling, citing grave violations that shocked the nation. Now, KNCHR noted that the incidences cut across various sectors, pointing to persistent challenges in accountability, governance, and protection of fundamental freedoms. The Commission also sharply criticized the conduct of recent by-elections, declaring that they did not meet the threshold of being free and fair. And according to the report, at least 3 people lost their lives during the by-elections, 2 in Kasipul constituency and 1 in Kabuchai. KNCHR further revealed that its officers were locked out of 2 polling centers, that is in Mbere, raising concerns over transparency and access for independent oversight. Additionally, the Commission documented widespread electoral malpractice, including massive voter bribery and the use of hired guns in several areas. Practices, it says, undermine democratic process and voter confidence.
The Commission documented 57 violations on the right to life. These include the killing of a human rights defender, one Richard Otieno in Molo. There was a question on the number of deaths in the by-election, and we've documented 3. So 2 of them were from Kasipul, Kabondo, during the by-elections. And then there was one there was a 70-year-old in a stampede in Kabuchai. So those are the 3 deaths that we've been able to document. 2 in Kasipul and 1 in Kabuchai.
The Commission monitored these by-elections, and they were kept out of 2 tallying centers, Chicago Primary School in Mbere North and Mumboni Northward. They were kept out of those tallying centers, and therefore we cannot make a decision on whether the elections were free and fair because we were denied entry.
Now, global civic freedoms continue to decline in 2025, with nearly 3/4 of the world's population now living in countries where fundamental rights are severely restricted. And according to a new report by the Civicus Monitor, the report titled People, Power and Attack 2024 documents more than 3,000 violations of civic freedoms between November 2024 and October of 2025. Now, these violations range from harassment of protesters and journalists to targeted repression of human rights defenders. Now, out of 198 countries assessed, only 39 are now classified as having open civic space, while 83 fall into the worst categories of repressed or closed. Now, this report highlights a sharp escalation in the use of detentions as a tactic of repression. Protesters were detained in at least 82 countries, while journalists were arrested in 73 countries during the same period. Now, Civicus Monitor warns that the shrinking of civic space poses a serious threat to democracy and human rights worldwide as citizens face increasing risks for exercising their basic freedoms.
Their civil liberties to protest. At least they gave notice of that. And when the state is busy repressing, in the neighboring Uganda, we know that civil liberties are being curtailed. Elections are next month, middle of next month, and police have been interfering violently with rallies of the leading presidential opposition candidate, Bobi Wine.
Express their sovereignty either through Article 37, the right to peacefully protest. We can also exercise that right through elections. And we have seen elections has become a cancerous issue in East Africa, from Tanzania, and now we're going to Uganda in January, and back to Kenya in 2027. And so on the issue of elections, we are actually coming up with proposed amendments to restructure the IEBC so that it can be able to produce credible.
Right, switching gears to matters politics, Molo MP Kimani Kuria has joined other leaders in supporting the government decision to sell a 15% stake in Safaricom, saying that the proceeds will be directed towards improving infrastructure across the country. Now, speaking at St. Mary's Catholic Church, Kuria explained that the move aims to reduce traffic congestion and open up urban centers in the country's interior for greater investment opportunities. He urged citizens not to fall into misleading traps regarding the share sale, emphasizing that the initiative is intended to ease tax burdens on public while promoting development. Kuria said the government plan is part of a broader efforts to enhance national infrastructure, attract investment, and stimulate economic growth in previously underserved areas.
Hii barabara ambayo inatusumbua kila wakati. Ukitoka Nairobi kuja Nakuru kufika Molo unatumia masaa 5, masaa 6, masaa 7, masaa 8, na wakati wa sikukuu tunaona kwa barabara. Ni kweli ama ni uongo? Ni kweli ama ni uongo? Nyinyi wananchi mlituambia zile kodi ambazo mnalipa imewafika mahali mnaona pengine hamwezi kulipa kodi zaidi ya hapo kwa sababu mmelipa kodi kabisa. Ni kweli ama ni uongo? Ile madeni ambayo tumekopa kutoka kwa World Bank, tumekopa kutoka kwa IMF, tumekopa from Exim Bank, tumekopa kila mahali kwa sababu ya maendeleo. Na barabara bado hatujamaliza kujenga. Tukajiuliza kama serikali ya Kenya Kwanza ni njia gani nyingine ambayo inaweza tumika kugharamia hii miradi ya kama barabara hii ya kutoka Rironi kuja hapa. Tukasema ni njia mbili. Moja ni ile inaitwa public private partnership. Ni kutafuta wawekezaji wakuja watengeneze hiyo pesa wakitumia pesa zao alafu warikave kutoka kwa tolls katika hiyo barabara. Hiyo ni maendeleo ama si maendeleo? Ya pili, tukajiuliza mahali ambapo tuko na asset, wewe ukiwa mzazi na uko na ng'ombe na uko na mbuzi na mtoto wako amefukuzwa shule, unaenda kukopa, unashika kitu yenye uko nayo kwa nyumba? Tunashika kitu yenye uko nayo kwa nyumba? Tukasema kuna shares.
Right, moving on, the Principal Secretary for State Department of Immigration, Dr. Bello Kipsang, has urged residents of Narok County to actively participate in the ongoing national registration exercise and apply for national identification cards, noting that the document is critical for accessing essential government services. Now, speaking during the issuance of ID cards at Endonyorasha, that is in Narok West Sub-County, Dr. Kipsang said the government had addressed long-standing delays that discouraged many Kenyans from applying for IDs. Now, he explained that investments in modern technology have significantly improved efficiency, enabling applicants to receive their ID cards within 1 or 3 days. The PS emphasized that the national ID is not only a requirement for voting, but also a key gateway to government services and programs.
Imefika kwa wananchi. Nataka shukuru watu ya hii ward ya Siana kwa maana leo tumekuja hapa na tumewaona wako wengi kabisa. Vile niliwaambia tulikuwa hapa tangu Ijumaa, na hiyo Friday tulienda na details na biometrics ya watu ya hapa, na leo asubuhi tumepeana ID ya watu wenye walikuwa wamekuja Ijumaa, ili vile tumeambiwa wa Kenya kwamba hii kitambulisho inapatikana hata kwa siku moja. Kama wewe uko Nairobi, ukikuja saa 2 asubuhi kufika jioni utakuwa umepata ID. Kwa maana unaona watu wa Narok walikuja Ijumaa, kufika leo Jumatatu wamepata ID yao. Kwa hivyo nawahakikishia Wakenya wote kwamba sisi wote tukuje ili kila mtu apate ID so that we leave nobody behind. Leo tuko hapa vile ili tuangalie mambo ya projects ya serikali vile inaendelea.
All right, moving on, the Kenyan government, through its investment arm, Kenya Development Corporation, that is KDC, has allocated 6 billion Kenya shillings to boost the local pharmaceutical sector. The announcement was made during a meeting between stakeholders in the pharmaceutical industry and the Cabinet Secretary for Investment, Trade and Industry, Lee Kenyanjui. Now addressing participants, Kenyanjui highlighted that 1 trillion Kenya shillings trade gap between Kenya and India, noting that over 70% of this deficit stems from the importation of pharmaceutical products from India. Now, in a bid to reduce dependency on imported medicines, the government, through the Ministry of Health, has committed to increasing the procurement of locally manufactured drugs. And according to Dr. Ouma Oluga, Secretary of the Health Services Department, these products must remain competitively priced while meeting all established quality standards.
We are looking at supporting you in terms of project finance. And so we are looking at new pharmaceutical projects or those who are looking to expand. Or equally, there is also the opportunity of us actually doing subcontract manufacturing. Those are conversations we need to begin having now.
We are committed from a Ministry of Health perspective to uptake the products. But we want to work with you to ensure that you're consistent, that the products are quality, and that we are price competitive, because that is the only way.
We have agreed as government the issue of payment to our suppliers, something we need to address, even if it means getting banks to come in between and pay on time as they wait for other things to happen, as we also streamline our healthcare system. But I'm saying, you see, there is no time when we will ever tick all the boxes, and probably no country has ever done that. So where can we start?
All right, it is exactly 16 minutes past the top of the hour. We are due for a short breather here on EBN Prime Edition, but we'll be back in just a bit.
Watching EBN TV, transforming your world. You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
EBN TV cares about the growth of your business. To advertise with us, call 0725 386 501 or 0740 653 453. EBN TV, transforming your world.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
This is EBN TV, transforming your world.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
Refreshing Times is here. Join us every Wednesday from 8:30 p.m. on EBN TV as Bishop J.B. Masinde of Deliverance Church International Umoja brings you messages of timeless wisdom, spiritual guidance, and heartfelt encouragement to uplift your spirit and renew your faith.
You are not what people said about you. You are not what you do. You are not what you wear. You are what God says about you. Somebody say amen.
Refreshing times where faith meets life. Only on EBN TV.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
All right, welcome back to the program. Moving on, healthcare professionals are urging immediate intervention from communities, the public sector, and corporate entities to address a widening support gap for children with disabilities, and diagnosis of disabilities continue to rise across the country. Now, experts warn that existing resources, are insufficient to meet the growing demand. The appeal was made during a workshop organized by Gertrude's Children's Hospital in partnership with Sanlam Alliance Holdings PLC. The session equipped parents and caregivers with essential skills to foster independence and socialization among children and special needs. It also emphasized the critical role of inclusive community support in nurturing the development of these children.
So today we are here for the purpose of meeting parents and caregivers of children with special needs. And the background to that is that we partnered with the Sanlam Alliance in a 3-year program that is called Enabling Children with Special Needs. And I think the key word there is enabling. And the reason why the program is because children with special needs have unique challenges that other children don't have. So they have challenges in social inclusion, they have challenges in learning, they have challenges in accessing common amenities that children need to thrive and grow. They have challenges in fitting in, and they generally have challenges in terms of optimizing their potential. So we thought that it's best to have a program that beyond the curative care that we provide those children, we try and enable them in terms of social inclusion and helping them to achieve their potential. Over the years, as a children, we've noticed a growing trend of increased numbers of children with special needs. And the challenge we have uniquely, and it's not just, I think, our hospital in the country, is that if you have a child currently who requires to access a specialist in terms of neurodevelopmental pediatrics, the waiting period is probably 3 to 4 months.
The data is then saying that there needs to be more initiative around policy framework, that definitely by government and stakeholders from that level, in how we support children with special needs, especially those that are underprivileged, those who come from, without the financial resources to be able to cater to them. There needs to be more awareness. Again, today in the morning we spoke about the lack of information. So information on how to prevent, how to take care, how to nurture children with special needs. And hence my call to action would be, as a society, as a nation, as companies, as we look at areas in which we want to give back, this is an area that needs more resources and more focus on, and more awareness. And coming together with like-minded institutions, then we can really create a safe environment for such children to be able to still grow and become, responsible citizens within our country with the necessary support.
Now, the Kenyan government is undertaking a nationwide initiative to align the skills of its workforce with the demands of both local and international job markets, aiming to ensure the country's curriculum remains relevant to evolving industry needs. Now, Cabinet Secretary for Investments, Trade and Industry, Mr. Lee Kinyanjui, made the remarks during a graduation ceremony of 700 students at the Kenya Industrial Training Institute, that is Kiti, in Nakuru. Now, he emphasized that rapid technological advances and industrial trends require technical vocational education and training, that is TVET institutions and polytechnics, to continuously update and tailor their programs to reduce market-ready graduates. Kinyanjui highlighted that the United Nations designation of 2016 to 2025 as the third industrial development decade for Africa, provides an opportunity to accelerate industrial progression across region.
I think the first thing to note is that following the President's decree on Kenya planning to transit from third world status to a first world status, we are looking at our institutions, KITI being core among that, and how we can align to provide skills necessary to transition the country to that level. Obviously, with these highways we are building, with these super highways we are building, we would want manpower to support in those technical spaces where we have. So we'll be looking at how we can align to provide the necessary skills, whether you're thinking of plumbers, technicians, electricians. We are also working on the automotive policy where we want to see more and more vehicle parts being made in Kenya. But how do we actualize that when the manpower is deficient? Also aligned to that is the Samurai Bond, which Kenya is working together with the Japanese government, and it will be about 23 billion, but a part of that can be used for upgrading institutions such as this and equipping them and also giving them a face so that as we talk about auto manufacture, we have the skills necessary. In the area of ICT and EV, again, artificial intelligence, again, we are seeing vehicles in other parts of the world even being driverless. So how do we have the manpower necessary for us to build capacity in that area? So we see KITI as a strategic institution necessary for bridging the skill gap to develop Kenya into a first world economy. And we don't just want to acknowledge that, we want to fund it so that it can be in tandem with government's vision of making Kenya a first world country. And just to note also, countries that have moved from poverty to prosperity, the number of engineers and technical people you have in your schools and colleges is also critical. So currently China is the biggest in terms of engineers graduating. So you also know where they are. So if Kenya is also to move to that level, emphasis on sciences, maths and technical courses will be essential. Not that we don't need the others, but I think the proportion is what we are talking about. And we would want to put a greater emphasis on those technical skills because we believe that is where the real problem is. Thank you. So within KITI, for example, we realize that a good number of our young people who finally get employed, say, into the Middle East countries, some into Europe, go into jurisdictions where the official language is French.
All right, now let's get sporty. And the Football Kenya Federation, that is FKF, has signed a landmark memorandum of understanding with Akakoro Football Academy to establish Kenya's first fully residential high-performance system for youth national team development. Now, the initiative, officially launched in December 2025, aims to create a structured long-term pathway to young footballers across the country. Now, under the program, FKF and Akarako will scout the best players born in 2011 across 5 regions. Top performers will receive full scholarships to join a residential program at Akarako's 25-acre academy in Homa Bay County, integrating CBC aligned education, elite football training, sports science, modern analytics, and personal development. Now, the selected players will be fast-tracked into FKF's under-15 to under-17 national team pathway, forming a cohesive squad in preparations for the FIFA Under-17 World Cup that is in 2027 in Qatar. Now, FKF President Hussein Mohamed described the partnership as a vital step in addressing gaps in youth football structures.
To formalize a partnership that goes to the heart of our long-term vision, building proper structures for youth development and creating clear, reliable, world-class pathways for our young footballers. As a federation, we have not been satisfied with the recent performance of our youth national teams, and that's a fact. We acknowledge the gaps, we accept responsibility, and we are committed to addressing them. Not through excuses or short-term fixes, but through deliberate structural action. Kenya has world-class talent, and we have the only thing that we have lacked is proper structures. Today, through this MOU with Akakoro, we begin correcting the gap in a way that is both historic and transformative. This agreement establishes Kenya's first residential high-performance system for youth football, a model inspired by global best practice and adapted to our own context. Beginning this December 2025, FKF and Akakoro will jointly scout the best 2011 born players across 5 regions nationwide. The open door policy, anybody who wants to partner with the Federation, feel free, feel welcome to come join hands with us. If it is aligned to our strategy, if it is aligned to our vision, and if it is aligned to our manifesto for this particular regime, then we are eager and we are willing to work with you. For years,
Alright, it is exactly 31 minutes past the top of the hour. Many thanks, of course, keeping us company until this particular minute. I was joined by Laura Omondi in the sign language interpretation. My name is Martin Macharia. Do have yourself a good night.